My dear friends, life is not always about big revolutions. Sometimes it is about small shifts in thought, tiny reminders that redirect us toward happiness, peace, and purpose. Today, I want to share with you 5 simple words that can change your life forever. These are not complicated philosophies, but gentle truths. If you carry them in your heart, you will see your relationships flourish, your stress reduce, and your inner world shine brighter. The 5 words are, this too shall pass. Think about it. Every storm eventually clears. Every winter makes way for spring. When we remember, this too shall pass, we gain the strength to handle life's challenges with patience. And we also learn to enjoy our joyful moments with gratitude, knowing they too are precious and fleeting. When you are in pain, remind yourself this too shall pass. The darkness will not stay forever. When you are in success, remind yourself this too shall pass. Celebrate with humility and kindness, because every season shifts. These words give us balance. They stop us from drowning in sorrow and also from flying away in pride. They help us live in the present with a calm mind and a grateful heart. If you can live with these 5 words, you will never lose hope in tough times, nor will you lose yourself in success. Instead, you will live a life of wisdom, gratitude, and resilience. Life changes not by giant leaps, but by small reminders that shape our thinking. Many of us believe that to transform our life, we need something dramatic, like a new job, a sudden stroke of luck, or a major turning point. We often wait for that one magical moment when everything will suddenly fall into place. But the truth is, life is not a movie where one scene changes everything. Real transformation happens slowly, quietly, and almost invisibly through the small shifts in our perspective and the gentle reminders we carry in our hearts. Think of it like water carving a stone. A single drop does not make a difference, but when drops keep falling steadily, they carve even the hardest rock. In the same way, it is the consistent reminders, those small thoughts we repeat, the gentle words we whisper to ourselves, that shape our life and character. If you look back at your own journey, you will realize that your biggest changes did not come from one grand event, but from repeated practices, the daily habits you built, the lessons you held on to, the phrases you kept reminding yourself of. For example, imagine someone who wants to become physically healthy. They don't achieve it by 1 week of intense exercise or 1 day of eating right. They achieve it by daily, consistent habits, walking a little, choosing a healthy meal, sleeping well, drinking water. Each act looks small on its own, but collectively, they create transformation. Similarly, our mental and emotional health depends not on one-time inspiration, but on the reminders we keep feeding our mind. When life becomes overwhelming, it is often not because of the situation itself, but because we have forgotten the simple truths that keep us steady. A gentle reminder like, this too shall pass, or gratitude is the key, can pull us back from despair. These reminders act like anchors for our mind, grounding us when storms try to sweep us away. It's also worth noting that small reminders are easy to overlook because they appear too simple. We often chase after complex philosophies and heavy theories, forgetting that wisdom lives in simplicity. When a child learns to say, "Thank you," it seems like a small thing. But if that child grows up practicing gratitude daily, their entire outlook on life changes. One simple reminder, "Say thank you," can make the difference between a bitter life and a beautiful one. In relationships too, it is not the big gifts or grand gestures that keep love alive. It's the small reminders, saying, "I appreciate you," "I'm sorry," or "I'm here for you." These little words may not cost anything, but they strengthen bonds more than expensive presents ever could. Relationships don't collapse overnight. They weaken when we forget these small reminders, and they thrive when we keep practicing them. So, the truth is, transformation doesn't require you to climb mountains or cross oceans. It requires you to carry small but powerful reminders in your heart and repeat them daily. These reminders shape your mindset, and your mindset shapes your destiny. If you start honoring these little whispers of wisdom, you will see how they slowly but surely change the way you live, love, and lead your life. The 5 powerful words are, "This too shall pass." At first, these words may seem ordinary, almost too simple to carry any deep meaning. But the truth is, behind their simplicity lies a wisdom that can completely transform the way we look at life. In fact, if you really allow these words to sink into your heart, they can become a constant source of strength, balance, and peace. Life is full of ups and downs. One moment we are celebrating success, and the next moment we may be struggling with failure. One day brings joy and laughter, and another brings pain and tears. This cycle is natural. No one is permanently happy, and no one is permanently sad. But our problem is that we often forget this reality. When something good happens, we hold on tightly as if it will last forever. And when something bad happens, we collapse into despair as if the pain will never end. These extremes disturb our peace of mind. That is where these 5 words, "This too shall pass," become powerful. They remind us that nothing is permanent. Every storm eventually moves away. Every dark night eventually makes way for the morning. When we are in difficult times, repeating this phrase to ourselves is like switching on a small lamp in the middle of the darkness. It doesn't remove all the problems instantly, but it gives us enough light to see hope, to keep moving, and to survive until things change. Think of the hardest moment in your past. At that time, you may have thought, "I will never get through this." And yet, here you are today. You survived. That moment passed, just like countless others before it. If we remember this wisdom in the middle of our challenges, we will suffer less. We may still feel pain, but we won't lose ourselves in hopelessness. But these words are not only for difficult times, they are also for happy times. When life gives us success, recognition, or abundance, we can also remind ourselves, this too shall pass. This doesn't mean we should not enjoy our blessings. In fact, it means we should enjoy them even more deeply, knowing they are precious and temporary. Just as a flower blooms for a short time, its beauty is even more special because we know it will not last forever. Similarly, when we remember the temporary nature of joy, we learn to appreciate it fully without becoming arrogant or careless. In a way, these 5 words create balance in our mind. They prevent us from being crushed by sorrow, and they also prevent us from being blinded by pride. They teach us humility in victory and patience in defeat. They guide us to live with a calm heart no matter what life throws our way. The beauty of this phrase is that it doesn't require any special effort. You don't need years of study or complicated rituals to apply it. All you need is the willingness to pause and remind yourself this too shall pass. Slowly, it becomes like a friend who whispers wisdom into your ear in both your darkest and brightest moments. Once we carry these 5 words with us, life feels lighter. Problems no longer seem like permanent prisons, and happiness no longer feels like something we must desperately cling to. We learn to flow with life, trusting its rhythm and knowing that every season has its time. Difficulties are temporary. Storms don't last forever. This truth may sound simple, but when we are caught in the middle of a struggle, we often forget it. Pain has a way of making time feel slower. A few hours of sadness can feel like weeks, and a few weeks of hardship can feel like a lifetime. In such moments, the mind convinces us that the darkness will never end. Yet, if we look at the nature of life, nothing stays the same. Seasons change, emotions shift, and even the heaviest storms eventually pass. Think of the sky. When clouds gather and thunder roars, it seems like the sun has disappeared. But has it really? The sun is still there, shining behind the clouds, waiting for the storm to move on. Our difficulties are like those clouds. They block our vision, but they cannot remove the light permanently. If we can hold on with patience, the clouds of pain will eventually part, and the sun of hope will shine again. Many people, when facing challenges, feel like giving up too soon. They assume that the problem in front of them will define the rest of their life. But this is like judging a book by only one page. Life is much bigger than any single difficulty. If we zoom out and see the bigger picture, we will realize that challenges are not permanent walls, they are temporary hurdles. Just as a storm nourishes the earth and then moves on, difficulties also shape us and then leave. Take an example from nature. After a heavy rainfall, the ground looks messy, flooded, and chaotic. But when the water settles, the soil becomes fertile, seeds begin to grow, and new life emerges. In the same way, our struggles may leave us shaken for a while, but they also plant seeds of strength, wisdom, and resilience. When we endure hardships with patience, we don't just survive, we grow. We learn lessons that comfort could never teach us. History is full of such lessons. Great leaders, thinkers, and innovators were not born strong. They became strong because they endured storms. Every difficulty they faced seemed overwhelming at the time, but eventually it passed, leaving them wiser and more capable. The same applies to us. When life pushes us down, it is not to bury us, but to prepare us for something greater. We can also see this truth in our personal lives. Look back at a time when you felt broken. Maybe it was the loss of a loved one, a financial setback, or a personal failure. At that time, it may have seemed unbearable. But eventually, you stood up again. You healed, you adjusted, and you moved forward. Today, that pain is just a memory, a story you can share with others. What once felt permanent turned out to be temporary. The important thing to remember is this pain is a visitor, not a resident. It comes to your life for a while, teaches you something, and then leaves. The problem arises when we treat temporary pain as if it will stay forever. That belief makes us hopeless. But when we remind ourselves that storms don't last forever, we find the courage to hold on, to keep walking even when the path is muddy. And then one day, without even realizing it, the storm clears. The same place that looked dark begins to shine with light again. That is the nature of life, ever changing, ever moving, never stuck. Difficulties are only chapters, not the whole book. If we can read patiently, we will see that the story always moves forward. Joyful times are also temporary. We must enjoy them fully and humbly. Often, when life gives us moments of happiness, whether it is success, love, celebration, or recognition, we think it will last forever. We feel as though the good times have finally arrived to stay, and we cling to them desperately, hoping they will never slip away. But just as winter eventually turns into spring and spring into summer, joy too has its seasons. It doesn't disappear to punish us. It changes so we may learn the art of gratitude and humility. When something wonderful happens, our natural instinct is to either take it for granted or become attached to it. For example, when we achieve success in our career, we start to assume that every project will succeed, every idea will work, and every plan will go smoothly. But success is not permanent. There will be failures, delays, and disappointments. If we cling too tightly to the belief that joy will last forever, we end up unprepared for the inevitable shifts of life. The wiser way is to celebrate joy with awareness. When happiness comes, let us embrace it, enjoy it, and be grateful for it, knowing that it is a gift, not a guarantee. Think of it like holding a beautiful flower in your hand. You know it will not bloom forever, but that awareness makes its fragrance even sweeter while it lasts. In the same way, when we realize that joy is temporary, we learn to live it more fully without wasting a single moment. Humility is another lesson joy teaches us when we see it as temporary. Success can often make people arrogant. They start believing they are invincible, that nothing can go wrong. But life has its own way of reminding us that no one is above change. The same crowd that claps for you today may forget you tomorrow. The same wealth that seems endless can vanish in a moment. If we remind ourselves, this too shall pass, we will enjoy our achievements without pride. We will remain grounded, kind, and compassionate because we know that what we have today is not guaranteed tomorrow. Consider the cycles of nature. Day turns into night, and night turns into day. The ocean has tides that rise and fall. Similarly, our life has cycles of joy and sorrow. Neither is permanent. Both come to teach us something valuable. Sorrow teaches us patience, and joy teaches us gratitude. Together, they keep us balanced. If joy lasted forever, we might become careless, entitled, or lazy. If sorrow lasted forever, we might become bitter and hopeless. By giving us both, life creates harmony. Think also about relationships. The moments we spend with loved ones are precious because they are not endless. Time changes, people move away, and life takes new turns. If every moment of joy in a relationship lasted permanently, we might not value it as much, but because it is temporary, we treasure it deeply. We laugh wholeheartedly, we capture memories, we hug tighter, because we know nothing lasts forever. Therefore, when happiness comes, instead of fearing its end, let us dive into it with complete presence. Let us smile without hesitation, celebrate without restraint, and share without holding back. But at the same time, let us also keep humility in our heart. Let us remember that joy is a guest. It will leave one day, and when it does, we must not mourn its absence, but be thankful for the visit. When we live this way, joy never truly leaves us empty. Even when the moment passes, the gratitude remains, the memory remains, and the wisdom remains. That is how temporary joy becomes eternal in our hearts. These words create balance, helping us handle both pain and success. Life is a journey of contrasts. One day we are lifted high by achievements, and the next we may be pulled down by failures. Sometimes we are surrounded by love, and sometimes we are tested by loneliness. If we respond only with our emotions, celebrating excessively when things are good and collapsing when things are bad, we will forever swing like a pendulum, restless and unstable. But when we hold on to the reminder, this too shall pass, it creates a sense of balance within us. Balance does not mean we stop feeling. It does not mean we become like a stone, untouched by life. Balance means we feel deeply, but wisely. We celebrate our joys without becoming arrogant, and we acknowledge our sorrows without becoming hopeless. Imagine walking on a rope. If you lean too much on one side, you will fall. To keep walking, you need balance. Life is that rope, and these words are the stick that keeps us steady in both directions. In moments of pain, balance helps us avoid drowning in despair. For instance, when we fail an exam, lose a job, or face rejection, the mind may tell us, this is the end. Nothing will ever work again. But if we remind ourselves, this too shall pass, we are able to step back. We realize that the situation is just one chapter, not the whole book. That balance keeps us from giving up. It gives us enough courage to take the next step forward, instead of getting stuck in sorrow. On the other hand, in moments of success, Balance prevents us from flying too high in pride. Imagine someone who earns recognition for their work. If they forget balance, they might start looking down on others, believing they are superior. But success is also temporary. The same people who praise you today may criticize you tomorrow. The projects that win awards this year may be forgotten in the next. When we remember, this too shall pass, we stay humble. We continue to treat people kindly because we know that life is constantly shifting. This balance is not only about emotions, it is also about perspective. A person who understands impermanence is not shocked by change. They expect life to move like waves, sometimes rising, sometimes falling. Just like a sailor learns to navigate both calm seas and storms, we too must learn to handle both joy and sorrow with steady hearts. Without balance, we either cling to joy so tightly that we fear losing it, or we cling to sorrow so tightly that we cannot see the way out. With balance, we hold both gently, letting them come and go as they naturally do. Think about relationships. In love, there are moments of closeness and moments of distance. If we cling too tightly during closeness, we suffocate the bond. If we panic during distance, we may break it unnecessarily. But balance teaches us patience in the low phases and gratitude in the high phases. It reminds us that both are part of the rhythm of a real relationship. The greatest gift of balance is peace of mind. A balanced person is not controlled by circumstances. They enjoy success, but do not lose themselves in it. They endure challenges, but do not collapse under them. They move through life with stability, like a tree that bends with the wind, but does not break. And this balance is nurtured through 5 simple words. This too shall pass. They give us the wisdom to accept life as it is, always changing, always moving, never stuck in one extreme. With balance, we are free to live more fully, without being prisoners of either pain or pride. They remind us to be patient during struggles and grateful during blessings. Patience and gratitude are like the 2 wings of a bird. Without them, we cannot rise above the challenges of life. One wing keeps us steady when times are difficult. The other lifts us higher when times are good. Together, they give us balance and help us live wisely. And the phrase, "this too shall pass," quietly teaches us both of these virtues. When struggles come, most of us react with frustration, anger, or hopelessness. We want problems to disappear instantly, like clouds vanishing in seconds. But life does not work that way. Just as it takes time for a seed to become a tree, it takes time for difficulties to pass and for new seasons to arrive. Impatience during these times only makes our suffering heavier. But when we remind ourselves, "this too shall pass," we give ourselves permission to wait. We calm our racing mind and accept that storms cannot be rushed. They will leave when it is their time. Think about waiting at a traffic signal. If you grow impatient, honk your horn and complain. Does the light change any faster? No. You only disturb yourself and others around you. But if you accept that the red light has its time, you wait peacefully. Similarly, life has its signals. When we are asked to stop, we can either fume with anger or breathe with patience, knowing that the green light will come eventually. Now let's think about gratitude. When blessings come, whether it is good health, love, financial stability, or recognition, our tendency is to enjoy them without truly appreciating them. We live as if they will last forever, but when we remember this too shall pass, suddenly, every blessing becomes more precious. We savor it, knowing it is temporary. Gratitude blossoms in our heart because we recognize how rare and fleeting these gifts truly are. Consider someone recovering from an illness. When they regain health, even the simple act of walking outside or eating a meal feels extraordinary. They are grateful because they know what it means to lose those things. The awareness that good health is not permanent makes them treasure it more deeply. In the same way, when we understand that joy and blessings are not guaranteed forever, we learn to live each moment with a thankful heart. Patience and gratitude are not just abstract ideas. They directly shape our relationships, careers, and daily lives. In relationships, patience helps us forgive, endure misunderstandings, and stay calm during disagreements. Gratitude helps us value the people in our lives instead of taking them for granted. At work, patience helps us grow steadily, while gratitude keeps us humble even when we achieve success. In our inner life, patience shields us from despair, and gratitude shields us from arrogance. The beauty of these two virtues is that they feed each other. The more patient we are during struggles, the more grateful we become when blessings arrive. The more grateful we are during blessings, the more patient we become when struggles return. Together, they form a cycle of wisdom that keeps us steady in the face of life's constant changes. And the key to unlocking both of them is the reminder, this too shall pass. It whispers to us in times of sorrow, be patient, relief is coming. It whispers to us in times of joy, be grateful, this moment is precious. If we can live with this awareness, we will stop rushing through struggles and stop sleepwalking through blessings. Instead, we will walk through life with patience in our steps and gratitude in our hearts. Holding on to this truth reduces stress and anxiety. One of the biggest challenges of our modern life is not only the problems we face, but the way our mind reacts to them. We often magnify situations in our imagination, turning small concerns into giant fears. A delay at work feels like the end of our career. A disagreement in a relationship feels like permanent rejection. And a financial setback feels like lifelong ruin. This habit of exaggerating pain and assuming it will last forever is what creates stress and anxiety. But when we repeat to ourselves the simple phrase, this too shall pass, we bring our mind back to reality, and suddenly the weight we are carrying feels lighter. Stress is often the result of thinking that our current situation is fixed and unchangeable. But life has never been fixed. It has always been in motion. A river flows, the seasons turn. Children grow, and even mountains change over centuries. If everything in nature is temporary, why would our personal problems be permanent? By reminding ourselves of this truth, we reduce the mental burden that says, I am stuck. We begin to see challenges not as prisons, but as tunnels, dark at first, but always leading somewhere brighter. Anxiety, too, thrives on the fear of permanence. Imagine waiting for exam results, a job interview outcome, or a medical report. The waiting itself feels endless, and anxiety keeps whispering, what if it never gets better? But if we hold the thought, this too shall pass, our perspective shifts. We realize the uncertainty is temporary, and so is the fear. Even the worst case scenario will eventually transform into something new. And knowing that helps us stay calm in the present moment. Think of a child learning to ride a bicycle. On the first day, every fall feels dramatic. They cry, believing they will never learn. But with encouragement, they keep trying. Slowly, the falls become fewer, and one day, they ride freely. The fear was temporary, but the child didn't know it. We too often behave like that child, believing our current fall defines the whole journey. The reminder, this too shall pass, allows us to keep pedaling without panic until balance returns. Scientific studies even show that stress reduces when people practice reframing their thoughts. A difficult moment, when viewed as temporary, feels more manageable. This is exactly what these 5 words help us do. They reframe our situation. Instead of drowning in, why me, we rise with, this won't last forever. This shift is subtle but powerful. It turns us from victims into survivors, and survivors into learners. Reducing stress and anxiety also has a ripple effect on our health and relationships. A calm mind leads to better sleep, healthier decisions, and more stable emotions. When we are less anxious, we communicate better, listen better, and love better. We no longer lash out in frustration because we know the moment of tension will pass. We no longer hold grudges endlessly because we know anger too is temporary. Life will always bring situations we cannot control, but we can always control the way we think about them. By carrying this too shall pass in our hearts, we give ourselves a tool to calm the storms of the mind. Stress becomes softer, anxiety loses its grip, and peace finds space to enter. In the end, it is not the absence of problems that brings peace, but the presence of perspective. And these 5 words are one of the simplest, yet most powerful perspectives we can hold. It prevents arrogance in achievement and hopelessness in failure. Human beings often struggle with extremes. When we achieve something great, the mind swells with pride, convincing us that our success is permanent and entirely self-made. On the other hand, when we face failure, the same mind whispers that we are worthless and destined to remain stuck forever. Both extremes are dangerous. One leads us to arrogance, the other to despair. But the reminder, this too shall pass, gently pulls us away from both traps and keeps us steady on the path of humility and hope. Success is a beautiful thing, but it can easily intoxicate us. When people praise us, When money flows in, when our efforts bear fruit, it is easy to forget that life is unpredictable. Success can fade as quickly as it arrives. History is filled with examples of powerful kings, wealthy merchants, and celebrated leaders who were once admired and feared, but are now only remembered in books. Their success was temporary, just like ours will be. When we tell ourselves, this too shall pass during success, it does not mean we cannot enjoy it. It means we can enjoy it without arrogance. We celebrate with gratitude rather than pride, knowing that what we have today is a gift, not a guarantee. Similarly, failure can crush us when we believe it is permanent. Losing a job, failing an exam, or facing rejection can feel like the end of the road. But failure too is temporary. Every successful person we admire today has faced setbacks that could have made them quit. The only difference is that they remembered their struggles were passing phases, not permanent conditions. By holding on to the phrase, this too shall pass, we remind ourselves that failure is not a life sentence, but a lesson. It gives us another chance to grow, to improve, and to rise again. Think about nature for a moment. Day and night follow each other without pause. After every dark night comes a new dawn. Similarly, after every failure comes an opportunity for a fresh start. And after every success comes a reminder to stay humble. Life is a constant rhythm of ups and downs. If we get carried away by either extreme, we lose our balance. But if we remind ourselves of impermanence, we remain steady whether the tide is high or low. There is also freedom in this perspective. When we achieve something, humility frees us from the pressure of proving ourselves repeatedly. We no longer feel the need to shout, "Look at me," because we know today's applause will fade tomorrow. And when we fail, hope frees us from the chains of despair. We no longer whisper, "It's over," because we know tomorrow carries new possibilities. Both humility and hope give us peace. And both come from remembering the temporary nature of success and failure. This truth also helps in relationships. When someone praises us, we don't let it inflate our ego. When someone criticizes us, we don't let it break our spirit. Praise and criticism are like passing winds. They come and go. Anchoring ourselves in the wisdom of this too shall pass allows us to rise above both. So whether we are standing on the peak of achievement or walking through the valley of failure, we must carry this reminder with us. It saves us from arrogance at the top and from hopelessness at the bottom. It teaches us to walk with steady steps, grounded in humility and lifted by hope.